Hello, welcome back to Neighborhood Conversations, where we have inclusive conversation, welcoming persons who have diverse resources, welcoming amazing people who are supporting different groups, supporting different initiatives that's important to helping people's way of life to continue to succeed doing their employment journey, doing their personal journey, and just in general. This is your boy, Templeton Sawyer, host of the Neighborhood Conversations, and we have the amazing Keith Gelhorn from ADDvocacy, which he will explain later on. And so I'm going to get right into the conversation. Keith, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here today on the Neighborhood Conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate being here.
How's your day going?
Pretty good.
That's
Just
good.
booking in students like it's going out of style right now. So
That's good. That's good, man. Keith, we just spoke in our last episode about youth employment and how it's important and how it connects with other people and serving young people. And you're actually a leader who serves young people. But what I want to get into, I'm going to talk about that later on in the discussion. But I want to hear, what is advocacy all about? How can you tell the listening audience about what do you do and all that good stuff? Let's talk about that.
So basically what we do is we coach neurodivergent youth and adults who have ADHD, learning disabilities, autism, anxiety, and any co-occurring mental health challenge that impacts executive functioning. And these are individuals who are in grade 12, transitioning into post-secondary students. And then we also help them transition from post-secondary into the workplace, and working with people who are also in career transition and entrepreneurs.
Wow, that's really good. Providing all of that service to different areas of life to help young people and people and students and all that good stuff. One of my questions I have for you, Keith, is how do you, where do you get your referrals? Like how do you identify those clients that come through you? Yeah.
So our primary of clients, or I guess are about 70% of our client base are post-secondary students.
Yeah.
So actually, as of August 1st, 100% of our fees are currently being covered through post-secondary accessibility services if you self-identify as a student with a disability. Yeah. So that's one of our streams. The second stream, we do also work with Nova Scotia Works. We've done a lot of work with Teamwork Cooperative and working with you guys since 2013, I guess. Wow. So we've got kind of two ways of having clients come through your doors. One is as all of our post-secondary students are coming out, everybody in the Halifax area, we refer them all to Teamwork Cooperative because what's the point of having them get all this help and then, land back and trying to do everything on their own, right? I believe in just a continuum of flow and the collaborative process. So, yeah. The one way is we refer the post-secondary students in. Another way is we get a lot of referrals from both you and other Nova Scotia Works locations around the province. And then we also have private clients as well. We've got clients right across Canada at this point and in the US. And one other just more recent development is that we've been collaborating with a doctor out of British Columbia. His name's Dr. Gurdeep Pahar, and he does ADHD assessments. He basically does them throughout Canada and does it with a nurse practitioner. Anyways, he's offering ADHD assessments at around the $300 mark. And then afterwards has a referral base. We happen to be one of the referrals out of that too. So just try to do it that way. Some of them are coming in privately, some are coming off the website, and some are coming off just through that collaborative process.
Well, that's really amazing that you have that space to provide to post-secondary students so that they can actually know that they have a support to go through the process of ADHD and mental health and other services you provide. One of the things that I want to ask you, Keith, is what got you into this work? What made you so passionate to start this work? Yeah.
It's a long story. I'm going to see if I can condense it. But the long and the short of it was that I was adopted into a family at birth, and I was surrounded by high achievers. So my dad's an accountant, my mom's a nurse, and my sister has a PhD in behavioral genetics, rooted in trying to figure out why she turned out the way she did, and I turned out the way I did, given the exact same upbringing. So everything came naturally to her. So it was, she was a full ride athletic academic scholarship, and went on her way, and everything was just like kind of a straight line. With me, I went all over the place, and so I struggled in reading, writing, and math. By the time I got to junior high school, I was pretty disengaged. I'd say disengaged from school, but very impulsive, overactive, constantly in trouble. Spent tons of time down in the principal's office. And by the time I get to high school, there was one course that I really liked doing was called Human Services. And anyways, I went into that class. And then there's a bunch of my buddies are making fun of me because I'm a big guy. I'm not standing up, but I'm 6'7". So they're like, why are you in that helping field, right? Why don't you go into firefighting or something like that? And for that, I needed to take a science. I walked into biology 12, looked on the board, turned right back around, never actually completed the course. And I get called in the principal's office again. Anyways, long story short, he said, I said, he was coming to that biology exam. And he said, you're going to have to write it. I said, I haven't been to the course since the start of the year. Right. Yeah. And he said, well, keep your performance here at the school. Doesn't matter what you do in life. You're always going to be a failure. And that was kind of my kickoff into adulthood. And I kind of lived like that for about 15 years. So I fumbled around at college and university. Didn't really know, I wanted to do social work, but I had to do all these other courses that I didn't like to do, and it just wasn't working out. So by the time I gathered enough credits to get into School of Social Work, they basically turned me away at the door and said, you're never going to succeed at post-secondary. Go get a trade. I hear plumbers make good money. And again, being a big guy, sitting under Sunby sink wasn't my idea of a good time. However, 4 years later, I found myself to be medically unemployed. And during that time, I joined an organization similar to Teamwork, actually, it was a trades-related program. Sent out a bunch of resumes. First company wrote me back, plumbing company. I was like, whatever, I guess I'm destined to do this. And did that. Got my tickets, worked in that trade for 7 years until a back injury hit. And as soon as I got the back injury, before the back injury hit, I worked in it until 2008 when the economic downturn hit. So our company went from 77 us to 40 in 6 months. I was the last guy to get cut. And at that point, I got diagnosed with anxiety and depression. And then a couple months later, I was describing some symptoms I had. So I used to get really frustrated really quickly when things didn't go my way. And so somebody said, I think you might have ADHD. And I was like, nah, those are the kids that are bouncing off the walls. That's not me. And then they gave me this book called You Mean I'm Not Stupid, Lazy, or Crazy. Had to read of that. I'm like, holy smokes, it's totally me. How did nobody ever see this up till this point? And continued to do work with a clinical social worker for a couple of years. But what I realized from therapy and social work and all that jazz was they were really good at helping you understand why you think and act and feel the way you do. As soon as I wanted to go to make the next step, there was nobody there to support me. That's where I learned about coaching and ended up getting hyper focused on that and actually followed through with it. And I've been doing it ever since. So.
I look forward to my family's security in the future. That's the main goal as a father.
The empowerment from changing careers has really just made me want to get out of bed in the morning.
I'm looking forward to growing my business. So I want to hire people like I was hired. I want to give guys that chance.
Il me fera plaisir de continuer à travailler avec les immigrants francophones en Nouvelle-Écosse.
I am looking forward to the financial freedom that I never had before.
Wow, Keith, that's really amazing to hear your story about that from beginnings of disbelief, people not believing in you, and you remain focused to where you're going, and having some challenges in between the midst of that, but you kept focused, and you even though there was some downfall where you wanted to give up, and you saw it coming at you, you remain focused, and you created this advocacy executive function, which is really amazing and really needed to connect people in the community and help people. So how are you having like different groups where people would talk about different. Do you have like some entrepreneurial support groups or other groups that you support that's connected with advocacy?
Yeah, so I do run an entrepreneurship group currently. We run it as this seems to be an ongoing pilot, but it's been a pilot. So it's basically full of neurodivergent entrepreneurs. We meet on a weekly basis, so it's every Friday from 9:30 to 11. And within that group, a number of the individuals are people who have participated in either self-employment benefits program or people that I've coached in the past, and or other entrepreneurs who are looking more support around that neurodivergent side of thing versus all the business side. So one of the things about running a business, it's especially running a business solo, is you can get in your head a lot, right? You get in your head, you can get discouraged, and you're by yourself. So there's not a lot of people to kind of bounce things off. So in that particular group, it's more run like a peer support group. We meet. We basically do like set up like a monthly action plan at the start of the month. The beginning of the month, we put a business on the hot seat and all of us kind of contribute all of our ideas to helping that particular business off. And then the opposing weeks, we're meeting to do body doubling actually, which is we come on, we say some good stuff that's happened during the week, and then we pick a topic that we want to work on for the next hour and a half. And then at the end of the hour and a half, we come back and we report on how it's going. So it's a way to get the hard stuff done. Usually the administrative stuff that most of us love delivering whatever service that we're in, but doing the admin is the difficult part, right? So we come together as a group to help facilitate that.
And that's amazing. So you have two different areas of focus but also two different demographics and target audience, I call them, that you focus on that brings amazing work. Let's talk a bit about mental health. I want to ask, why do you think mental health is important to advocate for?
It's a massive thing. It's I don't know, just from a personal perspective, I've been diagnosed with a whack of different clinical stamps on my forehead. So like I said, I started off with anxiety and depression, ADHD, processing disorder. I also have a learning disability math, which creates some challenges when running a business too. Luckily, I have a good accountant. But yeah, it's a lot of the reason why we got to focus on the mental health side of things is, well, first of all, it's rare, not talked about enough. It's coming more to the forefront, but it's a lot of kind of, I don't know, mishmash of information, not a congealed way, and basically how to create steps to get you to a better place. But yeah, the reason we talk about it freely is that like all the coaches that I have, we all self-identify as neurodivergent. So we come at it from a peer perspective, and we're used to riding on the roller coaster. That's why I have it up in my logo there. There's two ways to ride the roller coaster. You can either ride that one, the big, huge one, and that's usually by ignoring the problems or just like, it'll just go away eventually. I won't bother dealing with it. Or if you face it more head on from a proactive point of view, you can ride like kind of a smaller roller coaster and, still acknowledge that challenges do exist, but try to find strategies to make your life, I guess, better, or just work better for the whole situation, I guess.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's really good that you can see that through those lenses. But I hear you say strategies, and I don't want to take it into the whole full context of the work that you do. But what sort of strategies do you share in some of those lessons when guiding young people and people in general through the process, through your service? Yeah.
So the biggest thing that we focus on is that a lot of the individuals that I work with say they like kind of flying by the seat of their pants, right? But in reality, if we think back to times when we're most productive, and I can take it back to myself, most productive time in my life was around grade 3, right? My mom got me up in the morning. She got me breakfast. I went off to school. I had, a bit of, all I would focus on is recess, lunch, recess, come back, play outside, eat dinner, watch Littlest Hobo, go to bed, right? And times were good back then, right? Everything was kind of laid out for me, right? But as you merge into adulthood, you're responsible for creating your own structure. And for those of us who live with ADHD or any other thing that impacts executive functioning, we struggle with things like organization, time management, emotions management, communication skills, procrastination, perfectionism, all of that jazz. And so what we do is we work with individuals to help set up that structure for them, right?
Wow, that's really amazing. And Keith, I want to ask you, like, when engaging with these people in this space, like how is the space? How do you prepare the space? Like, do you welcome them with open questions? Like, how do you welcome the space? Because engagement is so important. That's one of the things that we spoke about in the last episodes, like about the approach and engage. What is like your original approach to these people that you're entering for them to trust you?
Well, the initial approach is like, much like I started my story earlier. I do the same with our clients, right? So we get to know a bit of a background on them. It is really important to go back as far back as possible. Not that it has to be school related, but I always ask, like, tell me about your experience coming up through like elementary, junior high, high school, college, university, any of your work experience, just as a guideline to keep them on track. And as soon as they're telling me their story, I'm listening for cues where I can relate in a peer perspective. And so when I come back to saying, oh, do you know anything about me at all? Right. Then I can kind of weave in my personal experience and then create a bond that you can't get just by going to school or reading in a textbook. Right. I had a guy call me up today who was just recently discharged from the military. And, working with a social worker and occupational therapist, he's getting a lot of the tools that we would be using ourselves. But because because he runs into problems on a week to week basis, depending on if he's on a high or low mood or whatever else, they're just like, well, you're not doing your work. You're being lazy. You're not trying hard enough or whatever else. And it's not it at all. It's just, they've hit a block that those people that they've read in the textbook can't uncork them, right? Whereas I can come in and say, listen, I was on one of those blocks last week too. I try to relate some personal stories, and my other coaches do too. We try to relate personal stories, but also mix it with research-backed strategies and kind of bring it together. The thing with creating any new habit or structure in general, usually takes around, well, they say on average for a neurotypical person around 21 days. For me, it's about 5 months, right? So we know we're playing the long game, and we also don't proclaim to anybody that we're going to cure them of any. You're never going to cure the ADHD. And even to this day, I still have a personal coach, I have a business coach, and I have a therapist. And when I keep them all in my life, things are great. Usually it's the therapist that wants to leave first. Like, oh, you seem to be doing better. You figure out your one problem. Then they're the ones that are the first to jet out, right? And so the whole thing with us is like, how do you create that element of, like the collaboration and the network around you to help lift you up, right? If you try to stay in your by yourself, and a lot of us try to do that, we just stick in our own heads, and we have this cycle going on repeat of all the challenges and stuff that we come up. And we really try to focus more on the positives and, what are you doing well, and whatever you're having the big challenges, how can we help you just break it down step by step to get to the next level?
Wow, that's really good. Making sure that you inspire them and keep them engaged, and telling the story is important as well along the way, which gives them a bit of relation to help them to move forward, and that's really important. Keith, this is really good. I'm so happy to have the opportunity to hear more about your work and also hear more about your story. I want to leave with this last and final question: is what can you say to employers who want to support and advocate for persons with ADHD and going through mental health in their organization? What do you want to say? How can they do that? How can they support and be of great help? Yeah.
There's twofold to it. One is educating yourself around the topic. But the second one is talk to your employees and figure out, ask them, just say, listen, there's a closed door, not, there's no judgment. What do you need? Right. And a lot of us haven't never been asked that question, right? We're just expected to go in and fit in the same box like everybody else. And if we don't fit it, then we're getting written up on performance reviews or whatever. I'd say like the number one strategy that a lot of my clients use that are professionals are, figuring out either your next level up boss or somebody in the office that you can meet with on a Monday and help talk it out, lay out a plan for the week, and then just have a little quick follow up at the end of the week to share how it went. So a little bit of planning and reflection, and that's the whole thing. So we're not good at either one of those tools, right? Usually we're just kind of living in the moment. And so we need somebody to come in and help us just kind of set out a plan and just have a bit of reflection to make sure that it's been done, right? So it's just adding an extra layer of accountability, and then also make yourself aware of the accommodations that are out there. Sometimes it's as easy as, if you're in I know one of my clients was in an office space where they had a window that was facing outward, and everybody that walked by was a big distractor. As easy as just putting up a blind, right? And just letting the office know, hey, I'm not in here ignoring you. I'm in here because it just helps me focus better, just little strategies like that.
And that's really good. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Keith. And I love the part where you say reflection, because reflecting is really important in order to help us grow and help us succeed. This is really good. At the Neighborhood Conversations, we try to bring key persons like yourself, Keith, to the table to share the story, share the passion, share the objectives of what can happen if you make this impact, and if you actually include this into your regular workplace. And also community partnerships brings this all together as well. And so I thank you so much, Keith, for bringing this to today's Neighborhood Conversation. And we're definitely going to bring you back, because I feel like we have lots to dive into on ADHD and persons learning about different types of ADHD and stuff like that. So learning more of those things, definitely we have to bring you back on to Neighborhood Conversations. But until then, I appreciate you for coming on to today's conversation. Folks, listening audience, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you at the next episode.
Thanks so much.
This podcast is funded by the Government of Nova Scotia.